So I'm not going to say much about the Democratic National Convention or the Republican National Convention. It's just one big theatrical display full of lies and deceit. So that's all I'm really going to say about it. It's very sad, and I'm sure anybody watching that would find it offensive if they are suffering, and there's so many that are suffering in the United States. Something that I wanted to focus on just very briefly is the attempted lynching of Jacob Blake, who is a black man in Kenosha, Wisconsin, who was attempting to, from what I understand, break up an argument between two people, and then the police turned up, and then he was walking away from the police to go back to his car, and the policeman just pulled him on his tank top and then shot him in the back 7 times. Which, I mean, that looks like that was the only indication, was him being pulled back by the police. I'm sure that they will invent stories to justify this attempted murder of Jacob Blake, as the police do, and of course most police officers get away with murder on a regular basis of black people. And there's, at least 3 people a day are killed, and black people are disproportionately represented in that 3 people that are killed by police every single day. What kind of an SHIT show do they have going there? Seriously, if you've watched that video, it's just one of sort of dozens of horrific and ridiculous videos. I mean, I never really watch those types of things because I have enough awfulness in my mind. I don't need to be recalling that as well. But when you read the descriptions, but I did see up to the point where he grabbed him by the shirt, and then I know what happens after that. I mean, it's just ridiculous, and words fail me to describe how awful that is, and it turns out, of course, now he's a paraplegic, which he may have other problems too, but that's probably something that he's going to have to deal with now for the rest of his life. And who knows if he will get any compensation at all from the state, because he will have to have special ramps to get into whatever dwelling he's living in. He'll have to have people supporting him. He will need physiotherapy and all sorts of other things as well. Who knows what other damages they have inflicted on him with 7 gunshots in the back at point-blank range. I'm amazed that he's alive, and it's amazing that they must have managed to miss vital arteries. So who knows what other things he'll have to deal with. Completely ridiculous and over the top, as usual, and an attempted murder. I mean, how could you not think that you were trying to murder someone? Literally pulling them by the tank top and then shooting them point-blank range was 7 times. 7 times. Will he get compensation from the state? Who knows? But he will require lifelong support. His children will probably require psychological support, because they were in the back of the car and saw their father being shot 7 times in the back. So that will be a dreadful thing for them to have to deal with. I hope that he survives the whole thing. He's not out of trouble yet, but it looks like he's a paraplegic, and it's just terrible, terrible, terrible thing. So pointless too, the whole thing. This is just a series, just dozens of black people being shot because they're black by the police in the United States. As a result, of course, there were protests around the country in the United States, and I saw on the Convo Couch, which is an independent journalist outlet, they were showing what was happening in Los Angeles. And they went down to the Los Angeles police station, and I think it was Main Street, and all the police were outside, and they looked like they were ready for a confrontation. And there was about 150 protesters, and they were unarmed, of course, and they were peaceful protesters. And even though I think the most that happened was somebody threw a plastic water bottle at the police, but they managed to fire rubber bullets and some tear gas, and they continually ran around to the side of this crowd, looking as if they were going to encircle them and then arrest them. I don't think it happened that way, but they kept basically looking as if they were going to fire more rubber bullets into the crowd. And then the live stream cut out after that. But basically, it's that crowd's First Amendment right to protest. And yet the police are completely over the top in their response shooting rubber bullets and also firing tear gas at people who are basically 150 young people. They look like they were 18, 20 years old, with a couple, 2 or 3 older people, black and white, all different people were represented there. And the response was for the police to look like they were encountering some sort of angry mob. It's bizarre for somebody who doesn't live in that country, and as yet, fortunately, we don't have that kind of militarized police with that kind of over-the-top response as yet. I would expect at some point down the road, if we keep getting neoconservative governments, or the complete lack of alternative, the Labour Party, if we keep getting that sort of thing, eventually we'll probably end up like that too. As social breakdown happens with the lack of support in society, the social inequality, the abandonment by the government of the masses, I expect that the force is going to be a lot more severe via the police or even the military at some point, and in Australia. And it definitely will go that way in the United States, because they're going to do nothing. At this point, they've abandoned the public, and I don't expect that's going to improve. And even if Joe Biden gets in, they'll trim around the edges, but there'll be no real support. There'll be no Medicare for all, and everything will sort of go on a slide, because as Joe Biden said, nothing is going to change when he gets into office, and he said he would veto Medicare for all if it came across his desk, which it won't. So that's the state of affairs with Jacob Blake, yet another victim of the white supremacist, racist, patriarchal, capitalist shite show they have going there. I just say this, that I think it would be, personally, this is just my own, I'd prefer to interview a black person about this rather than just talking about it myself, but where I live rurally, I don't have that capability of doing live streams successfully because of the poor technological support that we have here, the poor towers and the connectivity. So unfortunately I can't interview a black person about this, but I just wish to say that personally, rather than go down to the police station, because just like the army, the police don't care. They're instructed to be like this towards black people. It may not even be that overt. I'm sure it is, but it's definitely something that pretty much every police person seems to understand when it comes to dealing with black people. But I would go to any congressperson's house, any representative that is allowing this kind of thing to go on, that is not dealing with this COVID-19 pandemic properly. I would go to outside their house and congregate and protest outside their house, because the simple fact is these oligarchs are not afraid of the public, and this is why these things are escalating and allowed to happen. The police, you could tap dance and cartwheel and stuff, it's not going to make any difference to them. We need to all start to put pressure on politicians and actually have them be afraid. Now, I'm not advocating for violence. I don't think violence is an answer to anything. And violence just begets more violence. It becomes addictive, and those that use it end up as bad as the people they're using it against. And then you end up with really unpleasant people in power once again. I don't believe in violence. However, the oligarchy, the ruling class, are not afraid of the public anymore. And they think that they can just do whatever the hell they want. And they need to be afraid. They need to be afraid, and that's why people need to congregate outside or nearby people's houses and protest, so that these people start to take responsibility for their complete abandonment of the public. And this goes worldwide. There's only a certain amount of people that are in power, and there's a lot more of us than there are of them. And they need to feel afraid. I don't think politicians have felt afraid since Nixon. Since President Nixon, I don't think they felt afraid. And they need to. So that would be my approach, just personally speaking. I would congregate with a whole huge bunch of people down near those people's places, those politicians' places, and make them feel like they better do something. I'm not into the guillotines and pitchforks, but I think they'd get the message though.